As schools begin to reopen, the CDC has laid out their recommendations, which consider community spread and rely on 5 familiar strategies: masking, physical distancing, washing hands, cleaning facilities, and improving ventilation. For students living in the Mahoney-Pearson Residential College on the University of Miami Coral Gables campus, these recommendations have become part of their daily routines. Masks are mandatory and most study spaces are closed for lack of social distancing. But what about ventilation? Is anything being done to ensure clean air in the more than 60-year-old building?
They swapped out different types of filters. They also, for these large building units, introduce UV light to kill any contaminants that might have been in the air.
Most of the fresh air entering the building comes from the rooftop AC unit, which blows out air on each floor and travels under the door to each room. So how clean are those vents? Not very clean at all. It seems the source of the fresh air may not be so fresh after all. These ventilation conditions go against the CDC recommendations, which explicitly suggest to bring in as much outdoor air as possible and to open windows and doors. Can't do that. Windows and balcony doors have been sealed shut for over 20 years. This was done to prevent students from leaving them open and letting the AC out. As for air vents in the bathrooms, one Mahoney resident found his to be so dirty, he finally decided to clean it himself.
I had to finally get some Windex and a paper towel, and I just cleaned it all off. And but if you look in there, you can just see all the dust that's in there. So God only knows all the stuff we're breathing in.
So I decided to find out. I unscrewed the vent cover, and what I found inside was breathtaking. Although the last thing I wanted to do was take a breath.
It's literally nasty. It definitely needs to be cleaned more often than that, especially during a time where so many diseases are going around and things are so contagious.
I asked Mr. Baldessari why these vents were so dusty.
Those stacks are annually cleaned because, again, it's more evasive. You have to get in there. It's really inconvenient for the student to try to do it more often than that.
I'm not sure student inconvenience is the only thing at play here. What about cost? See, the school's happy to change out these air filters because they're cheap. They cost about $10 on Amazon. But cleaning the vents, that they don't do as often. Maybe because it's more expensive? To prove it, I called the local air vent cleaning company here in Coral Gables.
Thank you for calling Lowe's Cleaning Services.
The price quickly surpassed that $10 filter.
$39 supply vent, $65 for the return line, sir, and service call fee, that is $39 for a service tech to come out.
Maybe annual cleaning is all the school can afford. But do these vents really look like they were cleaned last year?
Ew. I
decided to do some more digging and reached out to Facilities Director John Talon. I finally got the answer I was looking for.
You go through and pull the grills off and essentially vacuuming dust out every 4 or 5 years.
Is it just students who have to wait 5 years to have their vents cleaned? I reached out to Elizabeth Greenlee, a housing employee who lives in Pearson. I asked her how much dust she had in her vents. Instead, she turned around and emailed Mr. Baldessari, who then sent me a sort of cease and desist email, warning me not to persist with my interview requests. Well, at least Mr. Baldessari and I can agree on one thing. Big clumps of dust in air vents are not normal.
It's not normal to have clumps. It may be based on where you are in your stack. And, if yours was done in late May versus late July.
We now know from Mr. Talon that this isn't true. The vents weren't cleaned in May or July, and according to Dr. De La Zerda, this type of air system neglect can damage your health.
Having these dust may actually worsen your pulmonary function, like COPD or asthma.
Not a good combination for sure, and not at all what the CDC has been recommending. For UMTV, I'm Liam Fabre.